had been sexually assaulted. Just as I was about to wash away the filth clinging to my body, I saw a flood of scrolling comments. What insane luck does the female lead have? She just goes to sleep and ends up having sex with a hot guy. I just saw the male lead's 8-pack apps. Damn it, she's got it so good. Let me take her place for a couple of episodes. Hehe, next the female lead is going to run away pregnant. A little baby is about to be born. Call the police. Go to someone you trust. Whatever you do, don't wash away the evidence. My gaze lingered on the last comment. After a long silence, I reached out and turned off the shower. I sat blankly on the couch, not saying a word, sunlight streaming through the window onto my body. It was clearly a bright day, yet I felt a piercing cold. Shivers running through me one after another as the memories I refused to recall surged back all at once. Bang! The ceramic cup slipped from my hand and shattered into pieces on the floor. I could no longer control my emotions. I crouched down and burst into tears. The half-length mirror in the house reflected what I looked like now. My neck covered in dense marks, a large split at the corner of my lips, my hair hanging down in a mess, utterly disheveled. I felt filthy. That was the only thought left in my mind. I'm filthy. I'm filthy. I'm filthy. Right. If I wash it off, I won't be filthy anymore. If I wash clean, it'll be fine. Ignoring the pain in my body, I rushed to my wardrobe. Skipping past the dresses, I picked out a few long-sleeve tops and long pants. I walked into the bathroom and turned on the tap. The sound of water splashing against the floor echoed softly. Those painful memories surged toward me again, and the overwhelming anguish made me wrap my arms around myself. When I opened my eyes again, I saw a flood of scrolling comments. What kind of insane luck does the female lead have, ending up in bed with the nation's heartthrob? I just saw the male lead's 8-pack apps. Damn it, she's got it so good. Let me take her place for a couple of episodes. Hehe, next the female lead is going to run away pregnant. A little baby is about to be born. I froze in place, too startled by the sudden scene to say anything. Male lead, female lead, what was all this? Before I could process it, one glaring, out-of-place comment forced its way into my sight. Call the police. Go to someone you trust. Whatever you do, don't wash away the evidence. I repeated it under my breath, but my grandmother always said people don't gossip about you unless you've given them a reason. Whenever I wore a dress, she would lash out at me with harsh words. I began to carefully recall that day. It was raining outside, heavy drops pounding against the window, the trees rustling loudly in the wind. I was wearing a nightgown with my favorite stuffed toy beside me. It had clearly been such a beautiful day. It must have been because I wore that nightgown. It had to be the dress. I tested the water temperature. As long as I washed away this filth, no one would know me, and I could start over. I couldn't let anyone find out about this. This comment was different from the others. It didn't celebrate what had happened to me. Very quickly, the person who posted it was attacked by the rest. What's wrong with you? Isn't this just something between a couple? But the female lead and male lead don't even know each other yet, and he went to the wrong hotel room and forced himself on her. That's rape, isn't it? So what? They're the official couple. It was bound to happen sooner or later. Maybe she enjoyed the experience. I took 2 steps back. No, I didn't want this. No girl would want to be with a stranger like that. No matter how talented or wealthy he was. To me, he was just a stranger. The hymen doesn't truly exist the way people think. Its proper name is the vaginal membrane. It isn't a sealed layer. It already has openings to allow menstrual flow. Some girls' membranes can change or tear from activities like squatting or dancing. Countless men take pride in being someone's first, setting examples for others, while countless women are bound and judged because of this thin layer. The comments descended into chaos, but that bold, black-highlighted comment ignored the insults and posted another line. It wasn't the dress, and it definitely wasn't your fault. Listen to me, Nia. Sperm can survive in the female body for up to 24 hours. Go to the police station right now and have the suspect's DNA collected. You don't just represent yourself. You represent countless other girls. You don't need to be afraid. I'm here, Nia. Nia. That was the nickname my mother and my grandmother gave me. My eyes reddened. It had been a long time since anyone had called me that so gently. But that one word steadied me. I began to quietly process everything the comments had told me. So I was the female lead in a runaway pregnancy story. After that night, I would get pregnant, drop out of school, and leave the city I had lived in for 19 years without telling anyone. 6 years later, I would return with a pair of genius twins. In the end, through my son and daughter's matchmaking, I would meet Winston Cooper, grow close to him, and eventually marry him. My son would be a genius hacker, my daughter a prodigy painter. My husband would be the nation's heartthrob. My life would look glamorous, flawless, nothing to complain about. Draped in luxury, successful children. This was the kind of life countless people envied. But I didn't want it. Irisa Shaw didn't want it. I should have been standing on a grand stage, holding the violin I loved most, shining in the world of music, not dropping out and ending up confined to a life of housewife duties. I didn't want to become the kind of person my children would see as someone who could only recite a single line of poetry. I was Risa Shaw, not Mrs. Cooper. I silently mouthed the words to that comment, then grabbed my bag from the coffee table and called a ride. What was the female lead mouthing just now? Can anyone explain? It looked like she said thank you. Weird, who was she thanking? The taxi quickly took me to the police station. I thanked the driver softly, then turned and ran inside, not noticing the driver making a phone call behind me. The comments surged again at the sight of the station. What the hell is she doing? She actually went to the police station. Is she trying to send the male lead to jail? What about the ship I'm rooting for? What about the plot? I ignored their shock. As long as I reported it, that scumbag could be sent to prison. An officer handed me a cup of hot tea. My heart eased slightly as I told them everything that had happened, from beginning to end. The officer taking my statement was thorough and serious. Noticing my unease, the female officer gently consoled me. Even if Winston was the male lead, no matter how powerful he was, he couldn't be above the law. When I walked out of the police station, I felt a wave of relief. When I arrived at the law firm, I recounted everything all over again. By the time I finished, I was drenched in sweat, my whole body trembling uncontrollably. That night, I had cried and begged him to let me go, but he ignored me completely, even tying my hands before carrying out his violence. The man was Winston Cooper. He was wealthy, powerful, and widely known for his striking looks, even labeled online as a nation's heartthrob. What was the exact time? Last night, 11. The lawyer across from me asked questions lazily, the pen in his hand spinning countless times between his fingers. Why were you traveling alone? I had a fight with my father. I wanted to clear my head. So, you're saying you were molested? Not molested. It was rape. My account had been so clear. How could it be reduced to mere harassment? I corrected him, but the lawyer suddenly showed a faint, ambiguous smile. It's all the same, really. Then why didn't you fight back? I raised my voice, defending myself. I fought back, but the difference in strength between men and women was just too great. The lawyer clearly didn't believe me and continued. That's Winston Cooper we're talking about. The room you booked just happened to be the one he regularly stays in. Who's to say you didn't look into it beforehand, hoping to latch onto someone powerful? What was this? Victim blaming? I'm sorry, miss. We're just following procedure, so I have to ask everything in detail. Even as slow as I was, I realized something was off. I stood up and saw that the paper was completely blank, spotless as if it had never been used. Instinctively, I tried to leave, but the next second I collided with a solid chest. That familiar sense of pressure returned. All the color drained from my face, and I didn't dare look up at the person in front of me. The lawyer's voice came from behind. Mr. Cooper, you're here. I looked up at the lawyer in disbelief. He was now bowing slightly toward Winston, his face full of flattery. The comments erupted in cheers. Haha, didn't expect that, huh? Your girl tried to send you to the police. Wow, first meeting at a law firm. Real romantic, genius. He's a billionaire heir and she's still complaining? Does she not know how good she has it? I remember he fell in love with her at first sight, right? The novel described it so vividly. Winston couldn't understand himself. He'd been with different women since he was 15, yet he couldn't forget that woman from 6 years ago. The memory of her had sunk into his bones, making him think of her day and night. I love a reformed Playboy arc. Oh wow, not a virgin and still acting like the perfect male lead? Please. This is realistic romance. You wouldn't understand adult relationships. Seeing that comment made me feel sick, like I'd swallowed something rotten. The author gave the male lead unrealistic power and status, yet forced reality into something as personal as this. I wanted to leave. I admitted that I was a coward. I didn't have the courage to stand against him. Right now, I just wanted to escape. But the next second, a hand grabbed my wrist tightly. A low, husky voice sounded beside my ear. Running away the moment you see me, Miss Shaw? His warm breath brushed against my ear, and the faint scent of cold pine from his body drifted straight into my senses. There was no doubt that Winston, as the male lead, possessed a face that could be called the most handsome in the world. His features looked sculpted, sharp and clean-cut. His brows were thick and sharply angled, the faint lift at the ends giving him an air of arrogance and authority. A face that made countless girls scream had become my nightmare. How disgusting. I tried to pull away, but his grip was far too strong. His gaze never left me, like a damp, lurking serpent studying its prey. That sticky attention made my skin crawl. I regretted it. I didn't regret reporting him. I regret not preparing myself for what would come after. There was a noise at the door. It was my father. Sweat still clung to his forehead, clearly having rushed all the way here. The moment I saw him, my tears fell. Finally, someone was here to stand up for me. Winston's voice turned cold and sinister. Do you think your father will stand up for you? I straightened my back and met his eyes without flinching. I'm his daughter. I was the only child in my family. Ever since my mother disappeared, all of my father's love had been given to me. When I was little, I once mumbled in my sleep that I wanted peaches. In the middle of the night, he went to several fruit shops just to find the best ones. Every time I made a mistake, he would smile and pat my head. It's all right. Whatever our Risa does is right. I thought, just like before, I would be met with a warm embrace, but instead, a sharp slap landed across my face. The force of it sent me crashing to the ground. What followed was a furious roar. You've got some nerve bringing this up. Do you even realize what you've done to this family? If you're not ashamed, I am. Without sparing me another glance, he turned to Winston, his tone instantly turning flattering. Sorry to trouble you, Mr. Cooper. Risa's just being foolish. Honestly, it's her luck that you've taken an interest in her. The metallic taste of blood bloomed in my mouth. The ringing in my ears drowned out the ambient noise of the law firm. I lay on the cold marble floor, my cheek burning with a fiery, stinging pain, staring up at the man I had called Dad for 19 years. His face, usually lined with warmth and gentle smiles, was twisted into a grotesque mask of subservience. He didn't even look at me. His eyes were fixed on Winston Cooper, his posture stooped, his hands rubbing together nervously. Mr. Cooper, please forgive her ignorance. She's just a child, she doesn't understand how the world works. I'll take her home and teach her a lesson. My father, the man who had walked miles in the snow to buy me a birthday cake. The man who told me my violin playing was the voice of angels. He had sold me. For what? A business deal? Fear? It didn't matter. The father I knew had died the moment his hand struck my face. A low, amused chuckle vibrated through the room. Winston stepped over me, the immaculate leather of his Italian shoes stopping inches from my face. Mr. Shaw. Winston's voice was smooth, dripping with the lazy arrogance of a man who had never been told no. There's no need for violence. I have a rather profound fondness for your daughter. Her spirit is exactly what caught my attention. He crouched down. His large hand, the same hand that had pinned my wrists to the hotel bed, reached out and gently brushed a stray lock of hair behind my ear. I flinched, my whole body trembling with visceral revulsion. Don't touch me, I hissed, my voice barely a whisper, broken and raw. Winston's eyes darkened, a predatory thrill flashing in his irises. So stubborn, he murmured. I like that. It makes the taming so much sweeter. The scrolling text in my vision exploded. OMG, Winston is so hot when he's possessive. The dad is annoying, but at least he's pushing the plot forward. Time for the female lead to realize she has nowhere to go but Winston's mansion. Forced cohabitation arc incoming. Let's go. Bow rose in my throat. This was entertainment to them. My shattered trust, my violated body, my destroyed family. It was just a stepping stone for their romantic fantasy. Then the bold black text pushed its way through the neon garbage. Breathe. Nia. Do not fight him right now. You are in a closed room with 3 men who are against you. Survive this moment. Agree to leave with your father. Play the broken girl. The plot expects you to give up. Use that. The commenter was right. If I screamed, Winston would simply carry me out, and my father would hold the door for him. I was 19, a musician, physically outmatched and entirely cornered. I swallowed the blood in my mouth. I lowered my eyes, letting my shoulders slump. I forced the burning rage deep down into the pit of my stomach, locking it away. I want to go home, I whispered, staring blankly at the floor. My father exhaled a loud breath of relief. Winston smiled, standing up and adjusting his bespoke cuffs. Good girl. I'll send a car for you tomorrow, Risa. We have a lot to discuss about your future. I didn't answer. I let my father drag me up by my arm. As we walked out of the law firm, I felt Winston's gaze burning into my back, a brand I intended to carve out of my flesh. The car ride home was suffocatingly silent. My father kept glancing at me through the rearview mirror. Risa, he finally started, his voice adopting that sickeningly reasonable tone. You have to understand. My company is on the verge of bankruptcy. Winston Cooper, he's a god in this city. He sneezes and we lose everything. When I got the call from his assistant that he wanted you, it was a miracle. I looked out the window at the passing streetlights. He raped me, Dad. Don't use such ugly words, he snapped, gripping the steering wheel. It's high society. These men take what they want. You're not the first and you won't be the last. But he wants to keep you. Do you know how many women would kill for this? You'll have money, status, a life I could never give you. I wanted to play the violin, I said, my voice hollow. Violins don't pay off a $10 million debt, he roared. I stopped talking. There was no point. The man beside me was a stranger wearing My father's skin, hollowed out by greed and the invisible hand of the plot. As soon as we reached the house, he locked the front door and took my phone. You're staying in your room until Mr. Cooper's car arrives tomorrow. Don't do anything stupid. I walked up the stairs in silence. I locked my bedroom door behind me and slid down against the wood, burying my face in my knees. The tears I had been holding back finally broke. I wept for the mother I missed, for the father I had lost, and for the sheer, terrifying weight of the world closing in on me. But I didn't weep for long. A soft glow emanated from the corner of my vision. Nia, are you there? If you can read this, look at the mirror and blink twice. I scrambled up, wiping my eyes, and stood before my vanity mirror. I stared at my reflection, bruised lip, pale face, and blinked twice. Good. Listen to me. The author of this world is trying to force the runaway pregnancy trope. That means within the next 48 hours, the plot will magically ensure you are pregnant. We are going to kill that plot point right now. My breath hitched. Pregnancy. Winston's child growing inside me, tying me to him. Forever. The thought made my skin crawl with absolute terror. You need emergency contraception. The morning after pill. But your father took your phone and you're locked in. Look under your bed. In your old violin case, the one from middle school. Do you still keep your emergency cash there? I dropped to my knees and dragged out the dusty black case. I popped the rusty latches. Inside, tucked beneath the velvet lining, were $300 I had saved from tutoring kids in the neighborhood. I looked back at the mirror. 2 blinks. Excellent. You cannot go out the front door. The window. There's a 24-hour pharmacy 3 blocks away. Go now. The plot will try to stop you. It will make you clumsy. It will try to make you fall. Stay focused. You are Risa Shaw. You belong to no one. I grabbed a dark hoodie and stuffed the cash into my pocket. I opened my second-story window. The oak tree outside had branches that brushed against the siding. I had never climbed it before. I was always too afraid of hurting my hands and ruining my ability to play the violin. But if I didn't climb now, I would lose my hands, my body, and my soul forever. I swung my legs over the sill. Immediately, a wave of unnatural dizziness hit me. My foot slipped. I dangled by my arms, the rough brick scraping my stomach. Whoa, why is the female lead sneaking out? Is she going to see Winston? No. She's rebelling. This is the part where she runs away and finds out she's pregnant. Shut up, I thought fiercely. Just shut up. I gritted my teeth, ignoring the dizziness. I found a foothold, transferred my weight to the thickest branch, and shimmied down. I hit the grass with a soft thud. The night air was cold. I pulled my hood up and ran. The 3 blocks felt like a marathon. Twice, I nearly tripped over perfectly flat pavement. A stray dog viciously barked at me, trying to herd me back toward the house. A sudden, torrential downpour began out of nowhere, soaking me to the bone. The world is trying to keep me in my place. I pushed through the rain, bursting through the sliding doors of the 24-hour pharmacy. I marched straight to the pharmacist's counter. The woman working the night shift looked at me, startled by my soaked, bruised appearance. I need emergency contraception, I said, my voice steady despite the shivering of my body. Plan B. The pharmacist blinked. Hey, we just sold out. The comments cheered. Haha, the plot protects the baby. Winston's seed is too strong. She can't escape fate. She's destined to be the mother of the genius. Twins. I stared at the pharmacist. I noticed her eyes were glazed, almost mechanical. The plot was manipulating her. I slammed my fist on the counter. The loud smack echoed in the quiet store, making the pharmacist jump. Look again, I demanded, leaning over the counter, my eyes burning with a fierce, desperate fire. It's a legal requirement for this pharmacy to stock it. If you don't give it to me right now, I will call the medical board, the police, and the local news. Look. Again. The pharmacist blinked rapidly, the glazed look shattering. She looked flustered. I'm sorry, let me check the back. A minute later, she returned with a small white box. I paid with my cash, ripped the box open right there at the counter, popped the pill out and swallowed it dry. The scrolling text in my vision glitched. Red error symbols flashed across the glowing comments. Wait, what? Did she just take a pill? But what about the twins? Author, fix this. She can't abort the male lead's babies. I looked up at the ceiling of the pharmacy and smiled, a dark, victorious smile. There will be no twins. There will be no runaway pregnancy. My womb is my own. I am so incredibly proud of you, Nia. Now phase 2. Do not go back to that house. I didn't go home. Instead, I used a payphone outside the pharmacy. I had memorized the number of the female police officer from the precinct earlier that day. She had slipped me Her personal card when her captain wasn't looking. If you need someone who isn't on his payroll, she had whispered. She picked up on the second ring. Officer Sarah Jenkins. Sarah, I said, my voice shaking from the cold. It's Risa Shaw. I need help. Within 20 minutes, Sarah's unremarkable sedan pulled up to the curb. Ushered me inside, turning the heater on blast and wrapping a thick wool blanket around my shoulders. They buried your report, Sarah said grimly, pulling away from the curb. The captain threw it in the shredder the moment you left. Winston Cooper owns the precinct. I figured, I muttered, staring at the passing streetlights. My father gave me to him. My lawyer works for him. Sarah gripped the steering wheel tight. I managed to save the physical evidence. The DNA swab, the clothes you wore. I logged them under a Jane Doe case number and hid them in the cold case locker. But Risa physical evidence means nothing if no prosecutor is willing to take the case. And in this city, nobody goes after Cooper. Ask her about the Starlight Charity Gala. The bold text appeared on the dashboard. I frowned, reading the prompt. Sarah, what do you know about the Starlight Charity Gala? Sarah looked at me in surprise. It's this weekend. Cooper is hosting it. It's a massive event. Senators, mayors, the governor. What? Winston Cooper's empire isn't built just on legal business. Tell Sarah to look into the offshore accounts tied to the Starlight Foundation. He uses the charity to launder money for a cartel. The evidence is on a hidden server in his penthouse office. That's how we bring him down. The plot made him a dangerous, dark CEO to make him edgy. We are going to use his edge to cut his throat. I relayed everything the text told me. Sarah pulled the car over into an empty parking lot, staring at me in absolute shock. Risa, how do you know this? That's federal-level intelligence. If this is true, we don't need the local police. We can bypass them and go straight to the FBI. I have a guardian angel, I said softly. But we need the proof. And the only way to get into his penthouse office is to be invited in, Sarah finished, her face pale. No, Risa, absolutely not. I will not let a survivor of sexual assault walk back into her rapist's lair. It's suicide. It's not suicide, I said, my voice hardening. It's justice. He thinks he broke me. He told my father he's sending a car for me tomorrow. He thinks I'm going to be his obedient little pet. I looked down at my hands. The hands that were meant to hold a bow and press strings. I refused to spend the rest of my life running from a ghost. I'm going to end. The next morning, I was back in my bedroom, having sneaked back in through the window before dawn. At 9 a.m. sharp, a sleek black Rolls-Royce pulled into our driveway. My father practically broke my door down to get me out, throwing a designer dress box onto my bed. Put it on, he commanded, and smile. I dressed in silence. It was a suffocatingly tight, emerald green dress. The color of money. The color of Winston's eyes. When I stepped outside, Winston was leaning against the car, smoking a cigarette. He looked me up and down, a satisfied smirk playing on his lips. Green suits you, he said, opening the door for me. Thank you, I replied, keeping my voice utterly devoid of emotion. The comments were going wild. Yes, the mansion arc. He's going to pamper her so much she forgets the assault. Look at how submissive she is now. She knows. He's the alpha. I wanted to vomit, but I kept my posture perfect. Beneath the emerald silk, taped securely beneath my breast, was a state-of-the-art micro-recorder and a GPS tracker Sarah had given me. The ride to his penthouse was a masterclass in psychological torture. Winston sat too close to me. He played with my hair, tracing the line of my jaw. Every touch sent spikes of adrenaline and panic through my veins, but I forced myself to remain still. I went dead inside. I became a porcelain doll. I heard about your little trip to the pharmacy last night, Winston whispered. Suddenly, his breath hot against my ear. My heart stopped. Winston chuckled, a dark, menacing sound. My men were watching, Risa. Did you really think you could take a pill and get rid of my mark on you? I had my private doctor swap the pills at that pharmacy days ago, just in case you got any ideas. You only swallowed a sugar pill. Panic seized my throat. I couldn't breathe. The plot. The author. They had rewritten reality to protect the pregnancy trope. He's lying. I watched you swallow the real Plan B. He's trying to break you. Psychologically. Do not react. He thrives on your fear. I inhaled sharply, anchoring myself to the bold text. I looked Winston dead in the eye and gave him a faint, empty smile. Whatever you say, Mr. Cooper. He frowned, clearly displeased that I hadn't broken down into tears. His grip on my chin tightened painfully, but then the car stopped. We had arrived. The penthouse was a monument to his ego. floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline, cold marble, and expensive soulless art. You'll stay here, Winston commanded, taking off his jacket. There is a violin in the conservatory. Play for me tonight when I return from my meetings. And, Risa, don't try the door. The elevator requires my thumbprint. He left, the heavy doors locking behind him with a final, electronic click. I was alone. I didn't waste a single second. The server is in his private study. Second door on the left. It's protected by a biometric lock, but the plot made him arrogant. He keeps a glass of scotch on his desk from last night. We need his fingerprint. I rushed to the study. It was locked. But I was 19, and I had spent my teenage years breaking into my high school's locked music rooms to practice. After hours, I grabbed a thick plastic card from my wallet and shimmied the latch. It wasn't a heavy vault door. He believed the elevator lock was enough. Security. The door popped open. I found the half-empty crystal glass on his desk. Carefully, using a piece of clear tape I found in a drawer, I lifted the oil residue of his thumbprint and pressed it against the biometric scanner of his hidden wall safe. Beep. Access granted. Inside was a black hard drive. I plugged it into my phone using an adapter Sarah had given me. The transfer began. 10%. 30%. Wait, what is she doing? This isn't in the novel. Is she stealing from the male lead? She's going to ruin him. Someone stop her. This is a romance, not a thriller. 50%. 70%. Suddenly, the front door of the penthouse clicked open. My blood ran cold. He was back early. The plot was intervening again, trying to catch me. Risa. Winston's voice echoed through the massive apartment. Where are you? 85%. 95%. Footsteps approached the study. 100%. Transfer complete. I yanked the cord, shoved the hard drive back into the safe, closed it, and wiped the glass clean. I darted behind the heavy velvet curtains just as the study door swung open. Winston walked in. He looked around, his eyes narrowing. He walked over to the desk. He looked at the glass, then at the safe. I held my breath, pressing my hand over my mouth. My heart was beating so violently I was sure he could hear it. He lingered for a moment, then turned and left the room. I slumped against the wall, sliding to the floor, gasping for air. Get out of the study. Go to the conservatory. Pick up the violin. Now. I ran silently across the plush carpets, slipping into the glass-walled conservatory. A magnificent Stradivarius rested on a stand. I picked it up, my trembling hands struggling to grip the bow. When Winston walked in seconds later, I was standing by the window, the violin under my chin, drawing out a slow, mournful note. He leaned against the doorframe, crossing his arms. The suspicion in his eyes faded, replaced by that sickening, possessive lust. Beautiful, he murmured. I didn't stop playing. I poured all my rage, my terror, and my hatred into the strings. He thought he was hearing a love song, a serenade of submission. He didn't know he was listening to his own requiem. The Starlight Charity Gala was a sea of diamonds, champagne, and hypocrisy. I stood beside Winston, clad in a backless black gown he had chosen for me. His hand rested heavily on the small of my back, a constant, physical reminder of my captivity. Every time a politician or a business mogul approached, Winston would introduce me as his newest acquisition. She's a prodigy, he boasted to a senator, swirling his whiskey. Plays like an angel. But she's mine exclusively now. I smiled. The same dead, porcelain smile. Beneath the gown, my phone had already sent the encrypted files to Sarah, who was parked in a surveillance van 3 blocks away, alongside a team of FBI agents she had managed to convince with the initial data drop. Tonight was the night. I hate this. Why isn't she falling in love with him yet? It's been 3 chapters of her just staring blankly. She's playing hard to get. Just wait until the bedroom scene tonight. He'll break her shell. I glanced up at the chandeliers, addressing the floating text in my mind. There. Won't be a tonight. 3 minutes, Nia. The FBI is moving in. The perimeter is secured. Get away from him. Winston, I said softly, touching his arm. It took every ounce of willpower not to recoil from the warmth of his skin. I need to use the restroom. He looked down at me, his eyes dark. He leaned in, kissing the corner of my mouth. Don't take too long, little bird. We have a private celebration planned. For later. I won't, I whispered. I walked away, navigating through the crowd of billionaires and socialites. I didn't go to the restroom. I walked straight toward the massive double doors of the ballroom, slipping behind a marble pillar near the exit. At exactly 9 p.m., the music cut out. The lights in the ballroom flickered, then surged to a blinding brightness. The heavy double doors were violently kicked open. Dozens of men and women in tactical gear flooded the room, their assault rifles raised. FBI. Nobody move. Keep your hands where we can see them. Chaos erupted. Women screamed, dropping their champagne flutes. Men in tuxedos panicked, shoving each other out of the way. Through the sea of panic, I watched Winston. The arrogant smirk vanished from his face, replaced by genuine shock. He looked around, his instincts kicking in. He reached into his tuxedo jacket, stepping backward toward a side exit. But Sarah was faster. She stepped out from the tactical line, her weapon trained squarely on his chest. Winston Cooper, hands in the air. You are under arrest for money laundering, racketeering, and conspiracy to commit murder. Winston froze. He slowly raised his hands, his eyes darting frantically around the room. And then his gaze locked onto me, standing behind the pillar. He saw the cold, unyielding look in my eyes. He saw the absence of fear. Realization hit him like a physical blow. His face twisted into a mask of pure, unadulterated fury. You bitch, he roared, lunging forward, completely ignoring the federal agents. He didn't make it 2 steps. 3 agents tackled him to the marble floor, driving their knees into his spine. He thrashed like a wild animal, his bespoke tuxedo tearing, his perfect hair falling into a disheveled mess. I'll kill you. Do you hear me, Risa? I own this city. I'll own you. You are nothing without me, he screamed as they clicked heavy steel handcuffs around his wrists. I stepped out from behind the pillar. I walked slowly across the room, the crowd parting for me. I stopped just out of his reach, looking down at the nation's heartthrob, the invincible male lead, now pinned to the floor like a common thug. You don't own me, I said, my voice ringing out clear and loud in the silent ballroom. You never did. You are just a rapist. And now you're a convict. I looked over at Sarah. She gave me a firm nod. As they dragged Winston Cooper away, screaming and cursing, the scrolling text in my vision went absolutely berserk. No. My male lead. This isn't how the story goes. She's supposed to heal him with her love. The author ruined it. I'm dropping this novel. But interspersed among the toxic outrage, new comments began to appear. Slower. At first, then multiplying. Wait, that was badass. Honestly? Good for her. He was a creep. I'm actually crying. She fought back. She actually fought back. I smiled, a real, genuine smile, and turned my back on the wreckage of Winston Cooper's empire. 2 years later, the concert hall was packed. The murmurs of the audience settled into a hushed, reverent silence as the lights dimmed. I stood in the wings, adjusting the strap of my gown. It wasn't green, and it wasn't black. It was a brilliant, blazing crimson. The color of life. Nervous. I turned. Sarah stood there, holding a bouquet of white lilies. She was wearing a detective's badge now, promoted after the Cooper syndicate fell. A little, I admitted, taking a deep breath. A lot had happened in 2 years. Winston Cooper was sentenced to 40 years in federal prison without the possibility of parole. Without his backing, my father's company collapsed. He had tried to reach out to me, begging for forgiveness, but I changed my number and moved across the country. Some bridges aren't meant to be rebuilt. They are meant to burn so you can see the way forward in the dark. I never got pregnant. My life remained my own. I walked out onto the stage. The spotlight hit me, warm and bright. I raised my violin, resting my chin against the polished wood. Before I drew the bow, I glanced out into the air, looking for the familiar glow. The comments were still there, but they were different now. She looks so beautiful. Go Risa. I bought tickets to this in the real world. I can't wait to hear her play. To think she survived all that to get here. She's my hero. I smiled, my eyes searching for one specific font. And there it was, bold and black, steady as a heartbeat. You did it, Nia. You rewrote the stars. Now play for yourself. I closed my eyes. I brought the bow down onto the strings, and the first, soaring note of the concerto filled the air. I wasn't a runaway mother. I wasn't a billionaire's broken toy. I wasn't a character in someone else's sick fantasy. I was Risa Shaw, and my story was finally my own.